Welcome to the Super Bowl preview episode of the Bold Take Podcast. I'm Austin Wader. You know the man next to me, the Austin Hill. Super Bowl week is just about wrapped up. Officially Thursday night, the night we are recording this, the NFL honors are tonight. But we already made our picks for all the awards
Yep.
and got you caught up on the latest coaching hires in an episode earlier this week. Go give that a watch or listen, however you view it. Caught us all up on all the awards and all the great coaching hires and maybe not great coaching hires, but that's your opinion. Do what you want with that. But nonetheless, Austin, the build-up's been all week. Let's talk about the game.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about Super Bowl 60. Seahawks and Patriots matching up here. Of course, let's say it like it is. We're all very familiar that this is a Super Bowl rematch. Can't think of what possibly happened in the last matchup between these two teams, Austin. I can't think of anything.
There nothing notable. I think a good decision was made on the last play of the game for the losing team.
Yeah.
Uh, that's what I remember most fondly is the head coach getting so much praise for making the right decision on the 1 yard line. That is all I can remember.
Yeah, yeah, that was the game-winning touchdown, 30 seconds left. It's what it seemed like,
Yeah.
but of course, we all know exactly how that Super Bowl played out. Makes for a fun rematch here and a matchup that I don't think, let's say like it is, nobody predicted at the start of the preseason. In fact, looked it up here. This is the first Super Bowl matchup in 50 plus years between teams that had 60 to 1 preseason Super Bowl odds. As
Wow.
wild as that is. And let's dive into these two teams. And let's start first with the one that I think is the most shocking of the two. And that's the New England Patriots back here again. It feels weird saying it's shocking that the Patriots are in the Super Bowl. Yet here we are in Austin. Let's just rewind the clock last year. Jerod Mayo finishes year one as head coach. They go 4-13. Drake May shows promise, but the roster is still just so far out from competing. They make the shocking move to fire Jerod Mayo after year one, but what do? They make the move that me and you said they should have made a year ago, which was hiring Mike Vrabel as the head coach. And immediately, Austin, you saw a jump in coaching with this caliber of roster for the Patriots.
Yeah, it's night and day difference the way this team operates. Look, they did add some like big time veterans for this team. Like Stephon Diggs is a guy we can all think of. It's kind of been an impact player, but like at its core, this team is pretty similar to the one that we saw last year. Drake May still at the helm. So this is a good quality team, and it just kind of shows that. Again, we talked about it. This is kind of the decision that the hiring that should have been made last season. I know we've talked about that a lot, and it's nothing against Jerod Mayo. We both actually said we thought, the firing, while maybe justified, why hire a guy
Yeah.
and then end up replacing him with the guy you could have hired in the last cycle if he's not going to get, more than a year at it. But look, Vrabel felt like the obvious hire when he was kind of shockingly fired in Tennessee. We saw the quality of teams he put together out there, took him to an AFC championship in kind of a similar surprise situation. But this time he takes it one step further and gets him to the Super Bowl. He's got that kind of pedigree. He's got that kind of edge to him. And clearly he's put together a talented staff that's gotten the most out of this young roster. So it's impressive what they've done, and it's been a huge overhaul, but kind of not surprised with what we've come to expect from Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, I was about to say it really is. But this Patriots team, the first team to ever reach the Super Bowl after a 13 or more loss season. And what's
Wow.
helped with that, like we talked about, coaching, but also some great play. And let's talk about this Patriots offense, led by a guy who will probably finish runner up for MVP, Drake May. 31 touchdown, 8 interceptions, number one QBR in the NFL, is going to become the second youngest QB to start a Super Bowl. And we thought that he had great potential when he got drafted, showed some flashes last year, but you could see with Josh McDaniels coming back in, bringing a consistent system in, and under Vrabel, his stock, Austin, jumped this past season.
Yeah, it's just been unbelievable what they've been able to accomplish. Again, it feels like not that much really changed with this team. Again, why we kind of talk about it being a surprise for going from where they were to where they are now. But yeah, it's just been the way they've been able to kind of unlock these guys' abilities. And you talk about a guy like Josh McDaniels, who has kind of that history of being kind of like this OC kind of offensive genius. Um, hasn't really ever translated to being a great head coach.
No.
But if there's one thing this guy does right, it's coach an offense and get the most out of his quarterback. And Vrabel knew he could lean on that. Obviously, he had his own experiences when he was a player in New England at the caliber of coach Josh McDaniels was, and so to pair him with Drake May seems like another match made in heaven here in New England.
Yeah, it really does. But other pieces have stepped up as well as offense. You talked about it. Stephon Diggs, what a great signing he was. Hunter Henry led the team in touchdowns this year. Very underrated piece there. And another thing, we got to talk about the second half of the season Travion Henderson has had at that running back position for his rookie year. We all thought it was going to be great whenever that draft pick was made. And we saw it really take off in the second half of the season. But this Patriots offense, number two scoring offense in the NFL, third in yards per game, sixth best in third down offense, and tied for first in yards per play on the offensive side of the ball this year. So the offense has been there for the Patriots all season long. Austin, you tinted at Stephon Diggs, but other pieces have stepped up alongside him.
Yeah, I agree. And you look at Stephon Diggs and the kind of edge that he brings. He's a very talented player. Um, and the Patriots kind of get lucky in this one. It wasn't a hugely, massively deep free agent class at wide receiver, and Stephon Diggs would have easily clocked in at the number one wide receiver had he not had that ACL injury this year. I mean, had he not had the ACL injury, he's probably signing a big extension to stay in Houston. Uh, but they have the injury. His value takes a little bit of a hit. In his early 30s, ACL injury could very well change how explosive he is. But he comes in and he delivers right away. And I think the thing that's fun to talk about, you talk about some of these gritty effort plays that he's had for this team this year. I go back and I think about that onside kick where he's on the
Mm-hmm.
hands team and he goes up and he makes that amazing catch and takes that huge hit at the end of the game to seal it. Like that's a play that you don't expect a veteran like that to usually go out and make. That's even to be out there with the hands team, usually not something that the veteran number one wide receiver kind of goes out there and does. But it just kind of shows the way Vrabel gets these guys to buy into his system and happy to be there. They all want to go out there. They want to fight for each other. They want to die for each other out there. And so it's just kind of that culture. You can see it in every player, what Vrabel's built. But it's been, for Stephon Diggs, who's kind of picked up this reputation as maybe a drama queen. And I wouldn't go as far myself to call him a locker room cancer, but I know some people like to throw that around a little bit. For him to come in and have this huge boost where he's bought in and he's just as committed as the guys next to him, it just kind of shows again the talent and the leadership that Mike Vrabel has as the head coach of this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, the offense has been there, but the defense has also been there. And the defense got a bit of a curveball thrown at the start of the year. Their defensive coordinator, Terrell Williams, was getting ready to go, but missed pretty much the entire regular season and the postseason, suffering from cancer. So he had to be away from the team. So they had Zach Kerr step in to be the interim DC. What a job he's done for them. Number four scoring defense in the NFL. Have only allowed two teams to score 25 plus points this season against them. That was the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. One of the best against the pass, have allowed under 195 yards passing in 10 straight games. And talking about what they've done in the playoffs, they have gotten 3+ sacks in each playoff game and have held every single opponent under 17 points. Austin, this defense is peaking at the right time.
Yeah, we talked about coming into the postseason that the statistically the worst defensive line in the playoffs was this New England front line. They don't generate a lot of pressure, don't get a lot of sacks. Their secondary is good, but they don't get a lot of pressure, and we wondered how they might match up against some of these offensive lines, and they've been great. Like you said, 3+ sacks a game in the playoffs right now. They've stepped up at the right time. Milton Williams has been a 4 Super Bowl winner with the Philadelphia Eagles last season. Gets himself a big payday to come up to New England and help improve his defensive line, and he's delivered in the postseason once again. But the guy I really like to look to on this defense is Christian Gonzalez, and
Mm,
the piece that he's been really from day one coming into New England. But remember, there were some big question marks with Christian Gonzalez. It wasn't the skill level. He was awesome at Oregon, but picked a little bit high, maybe for some people's likings at the time. What top? I think he was a top 10 pick for New England. Um, and it wasn't that he wasn't talented, but I believe coming off an injury that ended his
yep.
season in Oregon, and then kind of picked high for a cornerback. He was the best corner in the class, but still felt like a little bit of a high pick. But he's delivered. He's been awesome. He's been the face of this secondary. He's been an elite player, and it's been locked down. You can't throw at Christian Gonzalez. He's really delivered, and from him, they've been able to build one of the most solid secondaries in the NFL.
They truly have. And again, the job they've done as a whole in these playoffs. Thing I forgot to mention talking about this Patriots team on the offensive side of the ball. This offense scored 28.8 points a game. It's great. These playoffs, they have scored fewer than 22 points in all three playoff games so far. Now, a thing that's obviously with that is you're playing, three straight top 10 defenses in the
Yeah.
postseason. So, you take that stat with a grain of salt knowing it, but they're going to face a top 10 defense this Sunday, and we're going to go ahead and dive into them now. And that's the Seattle Seahawks, who, let's go back to them not last year, but 2 years ago. The shocking move to fire Pete Carroll. Me and you were both shocked whenever they decided to move on from him. And they hired this young guy in Mike McDonald, who we thought maybe had good potential, but, it was a interesting situation in Seattle. They had some good draft picks and saw maybe this guy can take us to the next level. Last year, they had the disappointing 10-7 season his first year, failed to make the playoffs. Make some changes. Fire Ryan Grubb, the OC, bring in Clint Kubiak as the OC. Move on from Geno Smith, bring in Sam Darnold off his best season of his career. Make some good draft picks. And next thing you know, Austin, you got a 14-3 team with the league's number one defense, getting that one seed and controlling home field all the way here to Super Bowl 60.
Yeah, like you said, it was kind of controversial with us, the firing of Pete Carroll. It felt like this was a team that was not really committed to a rebuild. He had said, he wasn't interested in coaching a rebuild. But it felt like this team was really trying to go all in for, what was left of Pete Carroll's career. And we were both kind of surprised that they didn't at least let him resign or retire from, his role with the team. And then they bring in Mike McDonald, like you said. Uh, but they don't have the season that they expected to have with Geno Smith and company. And it felt like, what were they doing? We didn't really know because it felt like maybe the firing of Pete Carroll signaled that rebuild that he didn't want to be a part of.
Mm-hmm.
But then the extension to Geno Smith felt like, well, I don't know. Are they trying to capitalize on Geno Smith's time now and see how competitive they can be now? Um, and then to move on from him and bring in Sam Darnold, it felt like, okay, this feels like maybe a more reasonable adjustment. See what Sam Darnold does. Can he continue the success? If not, you've got a young team, you've got draft picks, and now you can start to bring in a quarterback. And it's just been the perfect world. Bringing in a guy like Sam Darnold who continues to capitalize on that success. Uh, and then to bring in a guy like Cooper Kupp, former Super Bowl MVP, former should have been regular season MVP. And he's had a slow start to the season. But now that he's gotten into full swing, we're talking about at least 60 yards a game, at least one touchdown a game. That veteran instinct, those reliable hands, and now that playoff and Super Bowl experience are going to be huge for this team down the stretch.
Yeah, they really are. Now, normally we would start with the offensive side of the ball here, but let's talk about the strength of this Seahawks team, Austin. That's this defense, the number one scoring defense in the NFL, a team that has only had the Buccaneers and Rams that scored 25 plus against them this year in games as well. So a defense, and it's one under Mike McDonald. They don't blitz a lot. It's a lot of trusting in your coverages and that front four getting home on pass rushes. Not an elite pass rushing person, but as a group that they're a really solid unit there. The secondary's great with several great pieces there. Linebacking core, Mike Jones had a career year. And then, of course, one of the things that I talked about, made some great draft picks, getting Nick Eamon in the NFL draft, essentially getting Mike McDonald, his own Kyle Hamilton for that defense.
Yeah, and the big thing you kind of harp on and that I look at is the secondary and building this thing up. They take Tyreek Woolen a couple of years ago and late in the first round. He's kind of an exciting cornerback prospect, but he comes from a small school, Toledo, I want to say.
I believe
Or maybe that's
so.
Quinyon Mitchell, maybe from Toledo. He's from a
Quinyon
small
Mitchell. Yeah, I think that's the one you're thinking of. Yeah.
yeah, he's from a small school though. And he's a little bit of a risk to bring in. But he delivers in his first year, and he's a really fantastic player. And so they go, hey, next year let's fortify kind of this secondary. Number 5 overall pick, we're going to take Devon Witherspoon out of Illinois. Easily best corner coming in from the NFL draft. Felt like the best corner in college football that year to add to this secondary. And like you talked about, Nick Imawari, another guy to add into the secondary. Does it all, can play everywhere. But it's really in that secondary where they've started. They built in the draft. They've made the right picks in the secondary. And now they've got a lockdown secondary where it's hard to get anything going against these guys.
Yeah, I mean, hard for anyone to really get anything going. And trust me, they have been tested. They had to defeat the number one scoring offense in the NFL twice this year to get to the Super Bowl, and that being the Los Angeles Rams. But a tough defensive unit, so tough, but you still need to score the football and score points. And that's what you got with the Seahawks team. Number 3 scoring offense in the NFL, and they've scored 31 plus points in both their playoff games. And we talked about Sam Darnold already, what an impact he's had. Going to actually be, as I've learned, the first USC quarterback to start a Super Bowl. As crazy as that is to
I
believe.
saw that stat too.
Yeah. And he's also the second QB to win 14 games 2 years in a row. If you would have asked me who would have been that two, it'd be like, yeah, Tom Brady. And then who's this? Wait, what? Sam Darnold.
Okay.
And it just throws you for a curve.
The
But
New
let's say it
York
like it
Jets
is.
quarterback,
Yeah, I know. It's just like, it's so bizarre.
it's wild.
But the thing that helps him, though, as great as Sam Darnold is, you got to have pieces to help you out. And in the run game, for the most part of this year, it was a two-headed monster. Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet together. But then, at NFC divisional round, Zach Charbonnet goes down with a torn ACL, and you wonder, can Kenneth Walker carry the load offensively? Being the all-down back when it comes to receiving and running the football. And speaking for us, as we've been fans of his since college football when he dominated Michigan State, I think the answer was overwhelming. He absolutely can do it, and he did it in the NFC Championship, and I think he can do it in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder. I've got nothing against Zach Charbonnet, and clearly he showed he's a capable running back in this league, so it's no disrespect. But it was kind of the wonder when McDonald came in a year ago, and they started kind of this two-head monster, and they started taking reps out of Kenneth Walker's hand. It kind of felt like, whoa, what's happening here? Um, and clearly Kenneth Walker's kind of showed us that, yeah, he's still got that edge. It's not a skill thing. It's a strategy thing, why they take the ball out of his hands sometimes and give it to Zach Charbonnet. It's just the game plan because, like you said, he's clearly shown he's capable on all downs. We're both huge supporters of Kenneth Walker. So we've been cheering him on for a while. We knew he was capable. But, yeah, he's kind of had that reemergence to show off and show that he can be an all-down, all-purpose back and take a team to the Super Bowl.
Yes, he can. But again, something else you got to have to help Sam Darnold. You got to have elite receiving play. And we remember something else from this offseason. Seahawks trade DK Metcalf away to the Steelers. And we're all like, man, I mean, it's just going to be Jackson Smith and Jigba and then pretty much everyone else. Can he go out there and be a true number one? 1,793 yards receiving, first in the NFL, 10 touchdowns, probably going to be the offensive player of the year. I think the answer is, yeah, I think Jackson Smith and Jigba can be fine as a number one wide receiver.
Yeah. And you're right. It is the conversation we had. It was, we like Jackson Smith and Jigba, but Lockett's gone. Metcalf's gone. He's going to be the guy. And we were wondering how he would step up from being just kind of the slot guy, the kind of surprise, explosive guy, to now being the guy that's going to have the attention to get the ball. And the other guy I really like to talk about, Cooper Kupp. I did a bunch of talking already about him. But the thing I like, you beat the Rams 2 times this year. You beat them in the NFC Championship. I think this is the ultimate revenge and kind of I told you so moment. I didn't understand the Rams move personally to let go of Cooper Kupp to pay Devontae Adams more money. I think Devontae Adams is a good wide receiver. I do not think right now he's a better wide receiver than Cooper Kupp. His stats may be better this season. I still don't understand it. And when it mattered most, the guys that delivered were Jackson Smith and Jigba. Cooper Kupp made some big plays, especially against the Rams late in this season. So it was good for me to see kind of a move where I thought to do kind of a franchise guy dirty like that when you're talking about his salary and what that means to your team and maybe having to cut him for salary purposes and then to go spend all that money and then some to bring in Devontae Adams to replace him. I don't know. Me personally, that rubs me the wrong way, and I'm not Cooper Kupp, who's this fifth round pick that kind of came out of nowhere for him. So I like that he kind of gets this ultimate revenge to show out and get his chance to go get another Super Bowl ring.
Absolutely. Another wide receiver talk about there, Rashid Shaheed got there at the trade deadline. Been super helpful in the special teams, had the kick return for a touchdown, has been super helpful. But we talked each about the teams. Let's look at some matchups maybe to keep an eye on in this Super Bowl. And that's the first one I'm going to look at. How will this Patriots offensive line do against the Seahawks defensive line? I've talked about it. Patriots tackles, Morgan Moses, Will Campbell, pretty solid overall, but they have allowed a combined 8 sacks so far in this playoffs and 5 in each playoff game as a whole for the entire offensive line. Now, I talked about with the Seahawks team, they are top 10 in sacks this year. Each guy has about 7 sacks each. So it's not an elite overall player, but it's a tough unit. And someone to watch, DeMarcus Lawrence, the former Cowboy on that Seahawks line, has gotten a sack in 3 of the last 4 games. So the true thing, Austin, is when you look at this matchup, who do you favor here? The Patriots O-line protecting Drake May, or do you trust the Seahawks pass rush to get home?
I think if Will Campbell had 2 years in the NFL, I think you go, yeah, he'll be able to handle himself. But I think the thing we've seen is he's talented and he's got that future and he's learning and he's just going to get bigger and stronger and smarter as NFL career goes on. But we've seen right now the pure skill and technique of these NFL edge rushers has definitely gotten the best of Will Campbell. It's allowed a lot of pressures off of his side. Um, like you said, he's not allowing like a terrible amount of sacks, but he is allowing sacks. He's getting when it comes down to that technique versus technique, when you've got to be perfect, these guys are going to make plays. I'd be surprised if they don't stick to Marcus Lawrence on his side of the offensive line, at least to start the game and kind of see what that's going to be like. Because, like you said, he's a threat. The former Cowboy makes big plays. He made this move to Seattle, in the interview from this offseason,
Mm-hmm.
to go compete for a Super Bowl. He loved his time in Dallas, but he just felt like they were never going to compete in his time, and he wanted to go somewhere where he competes. Now he's making impact. I'd line him up against Will Campbell and test Will Campbell, see if he's going to be able to hold the skill and the technique of a veteran playmaker like DeMarcus Lawrence.
Absolutely. And I think that's a matchup to watch too. There again, I'm talking about with those two. DeMarcus Lawrence has been great. Don't forget some of the guys on the inside as well. Leonard Williams, I think he's a guy we've kind of forgotten
Yeah,
about since he's gotten in
agreed.
Seattle. Been a very underrated defensive tackle there. Interior is one to watch there. We talked about that matchup. We might as well, flip flop them. Talking about the Seahawks offensive line going against this Patriots offensive line. Patriots defensive tackles have truly been the specialists. You talked about Milton Williams and Christian Barmore have combined for 3 sacks and 16 pressures so far these playoffs. And where have the Seahawks had issues on the offensive line? Guard Anthony Bradford allowed 8 pressures and a sack in the NFC Championship game. So that seems to be kind of the main point where if the Patriots can get pressure on Sam Darnold, it seems to be in those two you talked about going against the interior of the Seahawks offensive line.
Yeah, and again, statistically in the regular season, this defensive line didn't make a lot of plays, make a lot of impact, but the guys have gotten it together, and I think that's something you have to watch for. And I think again, Sam Darnold's been so great in this postseason. He's made some big plays. I think the thing to still watch in this is does New England start the game a little bit early, bring in pressure on Sam Darnold, try to hurry him, try to make him make some mistakes. Again, in Minnesota, We saw that in the big interception game they had against the Rams in the first matchup. It was pressure that kind of got to him. He's been really good under pressure as of late, but I would still maybe bring a couple extra guys, maybe try to get in there, maybe put a hit on Sam Darnold, and have him thinking about that for the rest of the game. So we'll see kind of what this looks like. But I'll be very interested to see if they try to mix up some looks and try and get some pressure on Darnold early and try to affect him throughout the whole night and maybe get him off balance because that seems to be. At least, last year and then early into the season, that seemed to be kind of a strategy you could lean on. Again, hasn't been one as of late. He's been making the plays, but that's where I would lean. If you want to bother Sam Darnold and try and get in there, that might be the way to kind of affect this passing game.
Talking about both these quarterbacks, actually, according to stats I've seen, both have handled pressure well. The Patriots are actually 7-0 in their last 7 games where they have taken 4 or more sacks. And Drake
Wow.
May is the first QB to win 3 straight playoff games while getting sacked at least 5 times for that. So that's Drake May.
Impressive.
And then for the Seahawks, they are 5-0 this season when Darnold has been sacked 3 or more times. So, yeah, I mean, it's just wild to think that we talk about this pressure, but it seems almost like it helps these QBs thrive in these situations.
They've been great this season under pressure. I didn't know that 5 sack stat, and the other one, the one about them being 7-0, the Patriots being 7-0. That's a what 4+ sacks and they're 7-0. That's an unbelievable statistic because no offensive line coach, no offensive coordinator is going to talk. They're going to be like, ignore that. Don't ever look at that. We cannot give up sacks. Giving up 4+ sacks and not losing a single one of those games is unbelievable.
It really is. So that shows the toughness that this Patriot team has had, and we learned under Mike Vrabel. But now I've told you how great 2 of these defenses are. Let's look at some weaknesses, though, that could be exploited here. Talking about what the Seahawks defense, the number 1 defense in the NFL, number 1 scoring defense. But Austin, there is one glaring flaw with this Seahawks team, and that is their struggles versus running quarterbacks this year. They have allowed 5.0 yards per carry versus quarterbacks this season, 29th in the NFL. So they have struggled there. And you think, oh, it's Drake May, nothing really to worry about. Since the postseason started, his rushing yards have gone up from the regular season. He ran for 40+ yards in 7+ games this year and ran for 65 yards in that AFC Championship game. So could this be something to watch? Maybe with Drake May, if the pressure gets there early, you see him take off against a Seahawks team where that is their truly only glaring weakness.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if Seattle makes any adjustments for this. But the big thing for Drake May, running out of words here. The big thing for Drake May coming up in this spot and in the postseason has been it's not really like option plays and run plays. Like you say, the pressure starts to get there, and he's now making that conscious decision to take off. He's seeing the field really well in this postseason. So it's not exactly designed quarterback runs. He's just saying, hey, I've got an opportunity. Let's take it. So, yeah, I'm with you. While he's not really like, again, your typical rushing quarterback, he's not Lamar Jackson. He's not going to get a lot of options and a lot of designed quarterback runs. But, yeah, how is Seattle going to counteract the opportunities where Drake May is going to see the field and say, hey, I got to go. I got nothing. I got to get out of here. How are they going to counteract that? Are they going to sit somebody? Are you going to risk sitting somebody to spy on Drake May, even though he'll probably, run just a few times and really throw off your whole defense? Or do you really just try to get there and hope somebody can get him down? I agree with you. I think he's not exactly the biggest rushing threat, but could that be something he looks to lean on a little bit more as he has the whole postseason? Could he look to take off a little bit more and take advantage of that weakness? I would think so. I like again, how smart he's been, the way he's seeing the field. I could see Drake May kind of pulling it down a little bit early on a few plays and trying to take off downfield and take advantage of kind of those weak spots in the defense.
Absolutely. I think that's something to watch. You think of some of the great Super Bowl moments I still think about Super Bowl 57, Mahomes breaking free in the middle of the field for that big run to ultimately set up that game-winning field goal against the Eagles. There are moments where if he can exploit it, especially early on, I talk about this is the Seahawks team that doesn't blitz a lot. Usually you're going to drop back, 7 or 8 in coverage. So the moments are going to be there, I think, for May. The question is, can he capitalize and can the Seahawks defense be there? Now, on the other side of the ball, let's talk about the matchup that I think everyone's excited for in this one, Austin. You hinted at him. Christian Gonzalez going against Jackson Smith and Jigba in this matchup. That one right there is just get your popcorn ready for that one. But something to watch here. Seahawks have, we talked about other receivers. Cooper Kupp stepping up, Rashid Shaheed. The Patriots secondary, if there's a weakness, they have struggled against the receivers this season. They've allowed a 98.8 QB rate, 24th in the NFL against receivers. They've been better against tight ends and running backs. But I mean, we know Christian Gonzalez and Jackson Smith and Jigba will probably go against each other most of the night. You've hinted at Cooper Kupp a lot. Do you think maybe he's someone as maybe a game changer with this kind of matchup against this Patriots secondary?
Look, it's a guy with Super Bowl experience. It's a guy with the Super Bowl MVP. I honestly would be looking at Cooper Kupp to maybe try and add another Super Bowl MVP to the trophy case this weekend. I'm not going to say exactly it's going to happen, but you basically took what I was going to say right out of my mouth. Christian Gonzalez has been so awesome. He's the big talking point. But there's not a lot else going on in that Patriots secondary. You've got some good pieces. Marcus Jones is kind of a fun guy that can make some plays, but he finds himself that's kind of how he finds himself making on interceptions. He kind of gets beat a lot, and sometimes the throw just isn't exactly there. He finds himself in how do you put this? The
Trayvon Diggs situation,
right,
kind of like what Trayvon Diggs was.
yeah, the wrong place at the right time, or the wrong time, right place, maybe.
I like it. I
Because
like it.
he's not really supposed to be there, but the throw just doesn't always quite get there. And that's not to completely discredit him and say he's never in coverage. But yeah, how is the rest of this team? I think you can maybe try to trust Christian Gonzalez at least early, one-on-one with Jackson Smith and Jigba. And maybe Darnold won't try to test it too much if he can play some decent coverage. But what does the rest of his defense do to account for a guy like Cooper Kupp, who's been showing up in the last couple games, known for his big playoff and Super Bowl performances? And then even match a guy like Rashid Shaheed. All he's got to do is get open on a go deep ball, and he's gone. You give him any room, he's gone. So I like Cooper Kupp to have a big performance in this game and to get going off the ball and take advantage of Christian Gonzalez trying to take away Jackson Smith and Jigba. I would watch Cooper Kupp in this game. He's a guy you've got to have your eyes on. He's got the experience, he's got the skill still, and he's made the plays. He's got to be the guy to me. That's where my game plan kind of looks at. Where are our best Cooper Kupp plays? And we're going to call some of those on the first few drives and see how this defense is defending Cooper Kupp.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. Some things I'm just going to add really quickly, just some strength on strengths I'll dive into and add. Number one, for both sides, it's run defense versus a great rushing offense. Patriots run game versus Seahawks run defense. Ramondre Stevenson has had 70-plus yards in back-to-back games. Travion Henderson led the team in rushing I talked about. He's had under 30 yards rushing in each playoff game, but still a two-headed monster there going against the number one run defense in the NFL. Only allowed 3.5 yards per carry. So that's one. And then the Patriots and Seahawks, look, we talked about Kenneth Walker, how great he's been. He's had a streak of at least 100-plus scrimmage yards in his last 3 games. But this Patriots rush defense has only allowed 3.9 yards per carry. That's 6th in the NFL against running backs. But this postseason, they have only allowed 2.4 yards per carry. First in the NFL against running backs. So again, that's strength on both sides. And really, that could be a difference in the game. Which one can have most success running the football in this football game?
Yeah, I agree. It's a huge part of their identities. We again talk about the mobility kind of being limited for these quarterbacks. Again, Drake May's kind of stepped up here as of late, but still kind of a more limited mobility. They like to use these run games to take that pressure off their quarterbacks. And give them some other opportunities, take the pressure off the run game, make the run game easier with these run games. I'll be big interested to see how Kenneth Walker's going to be able to handle taking all that pressure, probably taking a lot of hits the way the Patriots defensive line is played. And then if he can still kind of get that fire going, if he's going to have the energy to go a full Super Bowl, taking the brunt of the damage and taking a huge chunk of those, running back plays. But also, you hit it at Travion Henderson not really having the biggest statistical games, but you look at who they trusted to tote the rock in the big moments at the end of both of their postseason games this year. And look, on those situations where you need to get every yard, you need to get first down to start chewing this clock down. It's Travion Henderson who's been on the field,
Mhm.
blowing through between the tackles, getting those big gains and getting those first downs to help run the clock out. So yeah, Ramondre Stevenson throughout the game is having the big yardage, maybe getting in the end zone for this team. But Travion Henderson's the guy they're trusting to tote the rock and run the clock out at the end of these games. And I think that's what makes it such a deadly two-headed monster is Travion Henderson maybe doesn't have these big games, but he's kind of fresh with the lower amount of carries, and then he can come in and crush you at the end of the game when they need to run it out in the last 5 or so minutes.
Absolutely. But, we talked a lot about the matchups and everything. Let's get to the fun stuff now. That's some novelty picks we'll dive into. And we
Yeah,
always start with, as we always do, with the coin toss, Austin. We talk about it every single year. Always about heads or tails for this one. I have been on a hot streak the last couple of years with tails. Tails has been on a bit of a run, but I've looked at the stats. Every Super Bowl since 2020, it has been tails, heads, heads, tails, heads, tails. So it kind of seems it's kind of evening up there as you would expect for, well, a freaking coin toss. So
yeah.
heads or tails, Austin, what are you going with this year in Santa Clara?
I've come around this year. Or ordinarily, I'm going in and I'm saying tails never fails. But this year, I'm going to go with the old Patriots legend Matthew Slater approach. You go heads, and you surprise the coin. It never sees it coming. You go heads. I'm going to go heads here for Super Bowl 60.
You know what? You took the words I was going to say right out of my mouth, except for tails. I mean, I never go against tails, every single year. I ride with it no matter what. Again, it's hurt me 2 out of the last 4, but it's helped me 2 out of the last 4. So it's really kind of
Yeah.
canceled out, for
It's
money
been
purposes there.
50-50, if you will.
Yeah, I know. Crazy. It's crazy to think like that. And one, because of this great article Austin Hill sent me, let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's do national anthem odds for this one. Something I thought be kind of fun to add in here.
Yeah.
Charlie Puth set to do the national anthem for the Super Bowl this year. Right now, the over under, for 120 seconds or more. Currently, 120 seconds or more is a major favorite over under 120 seconds. Now, again, I'm not the most knowledgeable when it comes to Charlie Puth music and how he sings as a whole. What are you thinking here? You think we're having a quick or we're having a longer national anthem?
I think when you're in a big moment like this, you're always trying to flex the time and try and show off your skills. And I'm not going to say Charlie Puth is a showboat. I don't really know him that well. I know his music though. He's a very talented singer. He's got the range and he's got the ability to be able to hold out some of these notes. This is the moment for a musician that you try to take in, you really try and embrace it, and you really usually milk out this national anthem. Charlie Puth's got the ability to do it. I'm going over 120 seconds. I could see him clocking in well over 2 and maybe go 2.5. He's got the range and the voice to hold out some of these long notes and those big pauses, especially at the end. I think Charlie Puth is gonna push it over, way over 2 minutes.
All right, way over 2 minutes. All right, you know what? You convinced me because I know some of his songs. He does hold notes really well. So
Yeah,
for that
he's
reason,
capable.
he is capable of doing it. So honestly, I could see it happening. So honestly, I'll agree with you. I think it'll be over 2 minutes as well. Again, I don't know if there's a place to bet that here in the state of Arkansas. If there is, I will find it
Yeah,
and I will find a way to bet on it for that one, no doubt. I mean, I hope to find it somewhere. Now, we'll do one more fun one before we get to the one everyone's waiting for, and that's Gatorade. But one fun one we're going to have here, and this is one we kind of talked about beforehand, and that's the Super Bowl halftime show. Bad Bunny is performing the Super Bowl halftime show in case you haven't heard about all the drama that's going on there. But currently, there's
yeah.
one also showing me total global viewers for Bad Bunny's halftime show. The over-under is at 135.5 million. Now, Kendrick Lamar's halftime show last year was actually the most watched halftime show of all time. And he had 133.5 million viewers in the United States. And it was actually seen by more viewers than the game itself. So that's crazy to believe there. But you kind of hinted at it here, Austin. With him being a global icon, you think he could send this number of over 135 million to the stratosphere.
Yeah, I think the important things to mention here is this bet is for global viewers. And talking about the Kendrick Lamar halftime show, that just says 133.5 in the United States. I guarantee, again, whether people tune in for the game or not across the country in South America and Central America, to see the actual Super Bowl, they might care less. But to see Bad Bunny, primarily Spanish speaker, makes a lot of music in Spanish. He's very talented. He's a global phenomenon, just as not just a United States icon. I think he could well crush this 135.5 global viewers. Absolutely. To me, this is going to be a huge home run. I think this is the easiest over. You want to make a little money watching the Super Bowl, have a little fun watching the halftime show, thinking about this one. I would go the over here. I think this is some easy money to make. If this is USA viewers looking at the numbers for the Kendrick Lamar, I'd say maybe. I don't know about USA, but for the world, come on, there's 7 billion people on Earth, and there are a lot of people on Earth that speak Spanish. As a global icon, as a superstar, I've got Bad Bunny crushing this number.
If you had to give a number for what you think it could be, because you obviously have over, what are you thinking here? If you had to take a guess at a number, what are you thinking?
Honestly, I'd like to do a little more research, but I'm saying we're not getting like 200 million
Okay.
worldwide viewers. Like I'm thinking like 250, 250 million worldwide viewers.
All right, I like it. And again, like I said, he sold me on it, so I'll take that over as well. Again, I don't know if there's any place to bet it here in the state. We kind of talked about that, but
Yeah.
if you could, I would highly recommend betting that because he makes some really great points there. But Austin, let's get to the main novelty prop that everyone loves talking about, and that's the Gatorade color that gets dumped on the coach at the end of the game. Now, the early favorite right now, orange is the favorite. Yellow slash green slash lime, whatever you want to call it, is next up, followed by blue, purple, clear slash water, red or pink, and then no Gatorade bath at all plus 5,000. Now, last year, Nick Sirianni, ironically, for the Philadelphia Eagles, got yellow slash lime slash green doused on him. And in the 2 years prior, the Chiefs used purple Gatorade on Andy Reid. But before that, blue had a decent run over a couple of Super Bowls. So, Austin, this is the one everyone wants to know. What are you going with for the Super Bowl Gatorade color?
Well, I'm staying away from orange. If you've listened to the show for any amount of time, you know I never pick the favorite. That's just not. It's no fun to me to just pick the favorite, even if it's a color I'm leaning to. I I never do any research before we step into the episode and actually look at the numbers on the episode. So if I have a number I'm leaning to, or if I have a color I'm leaning towards, and I find out it's the favorite, I get away from it immediately. Um, Look, usually I like to go purple. I feel like it's too soon for purple. Chiefs used it twice, like you said. And even though the odds are kind of high, which I like, I just don't know about purple. I don't think purple's on its way back in yet. I also don't really like yellow slash green slash lime. And part of that is because yellow and green are two separate colors of Gatorade. I don't know why they're combined into one. There's a difference between yellow and there's a difference between green. I think that should be easy for every person on earth to have a difference between. So I'm not going to bet where I could potentially have been thinking that it's yellow and then it's green, but then I still win because I said yellow. Sure, I'll take the money, but
Right.
it's just no fun for me. I want to be right about this. And I've always got a logic, I've always got a reason to some degree. This year, I'm going to go with blue. Blue's been a pretty popular one in history, but it's faded out a little bit. But the big thing for me, both these teams have blue in their color scheme. I kind of lean on this argument a lot, but look, last year, yellow slash lime slash green is poured on Nick Sirianni, their green colored team. Both teams have blue in their color scheme. I think it's the safest bet of all. Also, blue Gatorade, the berry Gatorade, that specific blue is an incredible Gatorade. It's one of
Mm-hmm.
my favorites. Berry is awesome. So I'm going to go with blue on this one. Bring back blue Gatorade.
Yeah. You know what? Again, there's several I considered here. Again, my original thought was for maybe orange, but again, like you said, once I saw the favorite, I was like, no, we gotta go away from the favorite. Gotta go away from the favorite there. Plus, it's just orange. Now, I love orange as the flavor, but when it comes to the coach, let's have some fun. You know what? Let's go with a fun wild card here. Give me clear slash water
I
plus
like it. I
1100.
love that pick. I almost said clear.
I really think we're due for that. We've had all the different colors here in recent years. I can't even think the last time we had clear for the Super Bowl. I really can't even.
Was it the Rams Super Bowl where they cut away from the Gatorade right before it got poured, and we had to like scour the internet to find it?
It might have been that one. I don't know, but nonetheless, I think this could be a fun wild card. And hey, guess what? There's going to be Gatorade. I also know for sure there's going to be water on the sideline, so you got a
Yeah,
decent chance there. So you know what? Give me clear slash water. If I can find a place, if it's those odds, I'm not going to bet a lot on it because it's plus 1100, but I'll bet a decent amount. I'll bet a decent amount
yeah.
on it.
Hey,
But
I like it. I
yeah,
almost went there. I almost went red pink too, but I couldn't reason it out to myself.
if no Gatorade bath happens, I wonder if there's a person every single year that just does like
Sure,
$1 on no Gatorade bath, just to
surely
see.
there's somebody just to see.
That's what I'd say. I think it's very plausible. But we talked about the games, the teams, the matchups, the fun novelty picks. Austin, let's make our picks for this game. Who do you have winning Super Bowl 60? What's the score? And who is your Super Bowl MVP?
Look, I've thought long and hard about this. This is two really good teams. I think honestly, I'd be thrilled to see either one of these teams kind of complete this story. Vrabel taking a team in a his first year, a rebuild year, as it was being called, to the Super Bowl and getting the job done as a former New England Patriot. I think that would be cool with Drake May. But I also love the Sam Darnold like redemption arc being completed by winning a Super Bowl, the ultimate like stick it to the NFL, stick it to GM, stick it to guys like us who have maybe slandered Sam Darnold in the past. A guy like me, stick it to a guy like me who's never really been a huge Sam Darnold guy until the last couple of years, where he's really been awesome. And you can't help but if you don't cheer for Sam Darnold, do you have a heart? Do you have a soul? I really don't know. Um, I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks. I like everything this team brings. I think their defense could ultimately be the difference in this game, but I also like the thought that Cooper Kupp could be a major factor in this game. I think he will. He's going to be my pick for Super Bowl MVP. Cooper
Mm.
Kupp gets another one to put in the trophy case. And the final score, I got it being 28-24 Seattle.
All right, all right. I like it. I like it. So, just a couple fun facts to bring in here before I make my official pick. This is the first time ever that we've had three straight Super Bowl rematches happen. Of course, we had Chiefs versus Niners, then Chiefs versus Eagles, and then this year with Patriots Seahawks. In the Super Bowl rematches overall in the history of the NFL, the winner of the original matchup is 6-4 all time. So
Wow.
that's something to keep an eye on there. But when I look at this matchup, there's so many factors here. Um, I think for the Patriots, I think Hunter Henry can be someone that not many people are talking about that
Yeah.
could be lethal against the Seahawks defense. I think Drake May's scrambling ability gives him a chance. But at the end of the day, my difference, Austin, really comes down to this stat. When the number one points per game defense faces the number one or number two points per game offense in the Super Bowl, the defense is 8-1 all time in the Super Bowl. In other words,
Wow.
defense wins championships. I'm going to lean on that Seattle Seahawks defense to make a few plays, maybe not force turnovers, force some punts, and Seattle capitalizes with Darnold. Again, I'm with you. Cooper Kupp, Rashid Shaheed, those two I don't think are getting talked about enough about how important they could be in this matchup. So absolutely, I agree with you. I'm going to go Seahawks win it. Give a final. I'll go 27-17, a late touchdown for Seattle to seal the
Wow.
deal.
I like it.
27-17. And you know what? Just for fun, give me Sam Darnold Super Bowl MVP, the Bold
I
Take
love
podcast legend. If
love
you
that.
know, you know why he is a Bold Take podcast legend
You're
forever.
a real fan if you know why Sam Darnold is a legend, because it has pretty much nothing to do with the NFL.
Yeah, literally has nothing to do with the NFL. It is somewhere on our Instagram page. So if you go there and you search through it, it's somewhere there. I promise you that.
If we compile the list of the top 10 or even the top 5 greatest Bold Take podcast moments, it is easily number one, right?
Oh,
It is
by
maybe the
far.
most purest, incredible moment of real-time reaction to anything we've ever had.
I agree. I can't think of anything else. We got to do one during March Madness again at some point just to
We
get a
do.
chance
I
at
mean,
that.
that made a banger of an episode and a huge moment. Um, what a, I mean, and you can hear it in my voice, but what a terrible, just what a terrible. I mean, I think my literal words are, did he forget how to play basketball? I
Yeah.
couldn't fathom it.
I think I heard you say, if I remember, like whenever I go back to, I hear you say, they were fouling him. They were
Yes,
fouling him like just
and they
over.
were fouling him.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, absolutely. I'm with you on the Seahawks. So we both have Seattle. And for one final time, ladies and gentlemen, I will have our official bet of the week and game pick odds for you in the next episode. Maybe in that college football episode, I just reveal all the bet and game picks together and we find out
Yeah,
that true winner.
for
So
that award show.
yeah, that award show. Maybe that you, if you haven't seen, you're in for a treat.
Yeah, on the horizon.
But
But next episode won't be the award show. Had an awesome NBA trade deadline the last couple of days.
yes,
If you've been keeping up with it, action packed, a lot of huge moves. It felt like everybody got involved. I'm really excited to get on it. So we'll record probably next Monday and have that out as soon as possible. But that'll be the next episode of the Bull Take Podcast. We get to start talking about NBA action because it's here. The Bull Take Podcast takes the NBA is coming soon.
yes, it is. We got a lot to talk about. There's a ton of big deals that happened over the course of
Yep.
several days. And we'll even talk about certain deals that didn't get made, obviously, is a
Yeah.
certain someone we'll dive into on that one. But Austin, for one final time this NFL season, what is your bet of the week for Super Bowl 60?
My bet of the week is Cooper Cup over half a receiving touchdown in this game.
Ooh.
I think that again, I'm going all in on the Cooper Cup love. That's my bet of the week. I'll also personally be betting Cooper Cup Super Bowl MVP. But I'm not going to go for that in my bowl of the week. I feel like that's a bigger stretch. I do think he's going to catch a touchdown in this game. I think he's going to be a huge factor, whether he gets going or whether he doesn't. If the other guys on the defense can stop Cooper Cup and really have an impact that way, I think that'll also be important. But I think Cooper Cup is one of those big pieces to watch on this football field on Sunday.
All right. So for mine, I also went with a player prop because I didn't want to go over under, spread for
Yep,
that.
me
That's no
too.
fun. Let's go with a player prop here. And it's one that shout out to, some of the guys I've been keeping track of just to see, what they're thinking here. And this is one I'm going to take Kenneth Walker over 21 and a half receiving yards in this game.
I like
And
it.
I tell you why. He has actually hit this mark in 4 of the last 5 games. And as I learned, New England allows the 6th most receptions to running backs in the NFL. So for that reason, I'm going to take Kenneth Walker over 21 and a half receiving yards. Get it done, Kenneth. Get it done. But that is going to
Yeah.
do it for this Super Bowl 60 preview episode of the Bold Take podcast. If you want to see our picks for the NFL honors and the update on the coaching hires, that episode's already out now. Make sure and go get that a watch or listen. And like we hinted at, fun things planned ahead after the Super Bowl, NBA trade deadline, college football award show. And after that, who the heck knows? Because guess what? We are in the midst of a great sports run and all across all sports. And what better place to be than with us here on the Bold Take podcast? That's going to do it for us tonight. You all have a great Super Bowl Sunday. That's Austin Hill. I'm Austin Wader, and we want to thank you for listening.